Warning. This episode includes heavy topics such as suicidal ideation. Please review the content warnings in the episode description. Stay safe out there. Deadwood Production presents Off the Deep End. Episode 12, The Closet, Part 1.
Dear Mom, Dad, and Jude, if any of you are reading this, then you're too late. I'm already gone. I've packed a bag and set off to dig up as much as I can about what happened to the Jefferson line. What became of Great Uncle Clay and Abel. And then I'm going to join my brother, like I've been wanting to for months now. I'm sorry you all had to find out this way. I thought when the time came I'd have more to say, but I don't. I've been feeling low even before Ash died, for reasons I can't explain. I don't feel like myself, and the self I want to be is too far away. Too unattainable. Impossible to grasp. For a while there, though, I was okay. I thought with time I'd be happier, but I'm not. I never will be. Not without Ash. As you can see, by the time you read this, I'll have also cleaned my room. Straightened up my desk, washed my sheets, put away my laundry, and made my bed. I could say it's a metaphor for how, even at my worst, I try to make things easier for everyone else. You taught me better than that, Mom.
I want you and Dad to have my photos. And I want you, Jude, to have my camera. Again, I'm sorry. I really am. Please don't worry about me. Goodbye. Love. Oh my God. Mr. and Mrs. Jefferson? She's not in her room. She's gone.
I had gone to bed with an aching wrist, and Jude cuddled against me for warmth. The bruise on the side of her head was a nasty one, and her chills were back again. I was glad we weren't apart. Neither of us could handle being alone then. The following morning, two things became apparent. For one, your sickness was the same as Abel's, the main difference being that Jude and I were watching it in real time. And two, Mom and Dad had no idea what was actually going on. It did occur to me that I could tell them the truth, but there was no way they'd believe us if I said some shit like, "Oh, hey guys, so your son was attacked by a possible sea monster thing and he might die if we don't figure out how to cure him in time. Also, something else takes over his body at night and is drawn to the water with a song only he can hear." Would that make sense to you? Yeah, I didn't think so. After that night, Dad was very adamant about Jude and I giving you space. It wasn't a stern request, but for the sake of our guest, it was his polite way of saying we needed to leave you the hell alone. "I know you two want to help," he said. "I get it. But this is the second time I found you girls covered in blood and..." He paused, rubbing his face. "Let the adults handle it, okay?" In his defense, the living room was a bloody mess again, and the stress of you being sick was weighing on him and Mom just as it was weighing on us. Dad moved you to the guest bedroom himself and told us that you'd be staying in there for the time being, just until the storm passed and the doctor arrived. I guess you got your own room away from us girls, after all. Jude's phone went off every 30 minutes. Mom kept blowing it up with calls and messages, and she ignored them, though I could see how hard it was for her to do so. By midday, she'd shoved it in her bag and let the battery die, though she had a hand on her necklace as she did it.
It'll be okay. I couldn't go home even if I wanted to. It wouldn't be safe with the storm. Mom will understand. She'll understand. She has to.
For days, you sweated your ass off in that guest bed. And for days, you went in and out of consciousness. Mom said you had a high fever. And the times Jude and I snuck in unbeknownst to Mom and Dad, they really didn't want us around you. You were mumbling things neither of us could understand. You didn't say anything embarrassing or spill any of your deep, dark secrets. Did you have any of those? I never thought to ask. Anyway, for the most part, if it helps, you were incoherent. There was one thing you said that stuck with me, though. I don't feel so good, sis. You muttered quietly. So quietly I almost didn't hear. I touched your hand. Lava could have replaced your veins and it would have been cooler. You grasped my hand and held it tight. Stay. I didn't visit you again for the rest of the day. Better to be productive than linger near your sickbed. I showed you the picture I took of the thing at the beach. She handled it better than me. She was more fascinated than afraid. And a part of me was relieved that I didn't have to be the fearless one. In an effort to get more information and fill in some gaps about what attacked you and Abel, we went back to the place where all this shit started. The attic. This time I watched the hatch appear out of thin air. The pioneer moved through me to rest in my brain, for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember a lot about this time. It's getting close to the end. Your end. I don't know how true this is anymore. I can't ask you to trust me, Ash. This is your cue to stop haunting me now. I don't deserve it. Or hell, maybe I do.
Okay, where should we start?
We planned to read through as many books in the bookcase and under the bed as we could for any mention of the ocean, sea creatures, or people being reportedly injured by either of the former. And if Clayton was as smart as Abel said he was, then I was confident he would have looked into Abel's illness at least a little bit as it was happening.
The books under the bed seem promising. Let's start there.
Except that they weren't promising at all. I could count on one hand the amount of useful nonfiction books there were. Though there was a small stack of folk tales surrounding the island, all of them checked out of the library. All of them from the year 1920, and all of them with notes written in the margins. But his letters were too close together to read. And he wrote in a cursive that only grandparents used. Legible, but pretty on birthday cards.
I found something that mentioned a sea serpent. Okay, now let's see. Oh, there were a lot of sightings of sea serpents from the 1820s, the 1930s, all over the vineyard. None of them hurt people, only animals. And there's nothing about a cure. Apparently box turtles can live for over 140 years. That's pretty neat, right?
It's interesting, yeah.
But it's not what we're looking for. Darn it. Oh, this is a pretty cover. Wow, this is the oldest copy of the picture of Dorian Gray I've ever seen. Checked out from a library in Mass in 1913.
And it looks really worked up.
The book looked well-loved, as Mom would say. Like it had been read more than once. Maybe several times. When I was still going to class in the fall, that book was part of a paper we had to write in English class. Repressed identity and how it caused Dorian to fall from grace, yada yada. The theme was acknowledged in class discussion. A baby could pick up on it. But what really got people talking was how extremely gay it was. It didn't take a detective to see it, and with how much Clay highlighted, annotated, and circled certain passages, I wondered...
Huh. Do you think it's possible that Clayton might have been gay?
I guess. Statistically, yeah. Not every Jeff's gonna be straight. Not everyone's straight in my family now. My aunt on my dad's side has a wife. I think my older cousin on my mom's side has some gender things going on. That's not a sexuality thing. I don't understand it fully, but it's whatever. None of my business.
I didn't want to talk about stuff like that with her. It's come up before all of this. It feels weird. Felt weird then too. I can't explain why. The more we talked, the more I felt like I was gonna get found out. It was like I had hidden something deep underground, and Jude, the curious and well-intentioned archaeologist, was a shovel away from revealing it. I don't know. I don't expect you to understand.
That makes sense. The only person who's gay in my family is my cousin.
And your family's cool with that?
Not exactly. She doesn't really care who knows, but my aunt thinks she's been brainwashed somehow. My parents think it's because they're Catholic.
What?
It's not all bad, though. We're close. She only has brothers, so being with me gives her a break. She's like the sister I've always wanted.
She looked at me, then looked away. Her face was very red. I don't understand, girls.
Between you and me, though, I'm a little jealous.
Jealous? Why?
Because she gets to go to school. And I've always wanted to go to school. Just to see what it's like. My aunt thinks putting her in private school will fix her, but I doubt it will. She's too confident in who she is to change for anyone. It's what I admire about her. Even if she is younger than me.
Jude smiled at me. It was a sad smile, but I savored it.
But I'm my parents' only child. Their miracle, their rainbow baby, or as my dad says, dream they never thought would come true. They mean well. They don't want me to stray from God's light, and I've spent my whole life trying not to. But gosh, God, I wish they'd let me be a kid.
I found her in your room later that night. The pioneer didn't like her being in there, but she was praying at your bedside, despite her shivers. Her chills had gotten worse, bad enough that I thought she'd freeze in her sleep. Jude loved you as much as I did. As much as I do. She prayed for you, Ash. I don't know if it worked, but that night you didn't attack us. You didn't try to leave. You were getting worse. You stayed in bed for most of it. You barely moved, too weak to lift your head up. Mom and Dad tried to get you to eat and drink water when you were awake. With how much you resisted, it was a struggle. I tried not to listen when they argued. I tried to pretend everything was still fine, that I didn't see Mom's red eyes during dinner time. The clock was ticking. Jude and I needed to find something that would help you. Something that would save you. Anything. We were your last line of defense. What shit luck you had. Although I did manage to find something interesting in the attic that day.
Yo, dude, come take a look at this.
Within the folds of a vintage but well-maintained copy of Alice in Wonderland was a newspaper clipping. The printed words were a little faded, but I could read it well enough. I took the clipping and the book before we left that summer. Other than the picture of Dorian Gray, Alice in Wonderland clearly meant a lot to Clay. Too much to keep rotting with the rest of the books in the attic. On May 21st, 1856, The Vineyard Gazette reported the death of a 17-year-old girl at the hands of a creature lurking in the Atlantic near one of the Edgartown beaches. A similar death months before was reported on an older man in his 60s. He suffered a mysterious injury after falling into the water while fishing, and he reportedly told his close friends and neighbors that he was hearing a song that no one else could hear. Then he disappeared. A friend of his went looking for him and found some of his remains washed up on a beach in Oak Bluffs, one of which was the dead man's finger, which I had the displeasure of seeing an old-timey picture of. It didn't say whether the girl heard the song too, but after the death of the man and the scattered but subsequent deaths afterwards, the creature had been given a name that stuck: the Siren. It apparently tears people apart and eats them, dead or alive, and it sometimes lures people in with its song. Fitting name. The brief description was this: dark hair, pale spine, blue veins, and from what people were saying back then, fish-like. All in all, very scary. But that was all there was. No cure, no hidden medicine that would make you better, no magic potion to fix you up, nothing that would stop your suffering, no way for us to switch places so I could suffer instead. Just useless information that couldn't even delay the inevitable. I see it now, Ash. There was nothing we could have done. You were always going to die. I was always going to lose you. Your blood would have ended up on my hands one way or another. How fucked up is fate that your death has been in the cards since the very start? That between us, I would be the one standing. What a waste of a life. You should be here right now, goddammit. My life should have been yours. You, or rather not you, tried to go outside again that night. I locked the door from the outside after Mom and Dad went to bed as a precaution. The thing that was in your body was trapped. Whatever it was, I assume it was too overcome with its own poison to puppet you around, much less be able to get up and try the door. As its last attempt to break free, it started to cry. Yes, it cried. It used your tears and your voice to call to me, to beg me to open the door. I was too stupid to see it was a trick. It sounded too real, too like you to ignore. I left Jude alone and stood in front of the guest room door. I made myself listen to your cries. I hadn't heard you cry like that since you broke your leg playing soccer in kindergarten. You cried for hours that night, and the pain was the most unbearable. And I listened, on alert for just as long. I unlocked the door. Of course I did. I wanted to comfort you. And the part of me that's still 6 years old and naively tender wanted to do everything in my power to make my brother stop crying. I opened it. Just a crack. And the crying stopped. I hesitated. I wasn't expecting the sound to stop so abruptly. And you made another sound. You started to laugh. No. It wasn't you at all. The Pioneer moved through me. The floor creaked below me, and the door closed with a slam. The next day, I encountered yet another room I'd never seen before. In the first floor hallway, a door appeared. A closet. The same one you swore you hid in all those years ago. It showed up in the afternoon. Mom and Dad were on their third attempt at feeding you chicken soup, and Jude was napping. She was too cold to do anything else. The closet had an old, musty smell to it. There was no light inside, so I used the one in the hallway to see. A weird-looking vacuum was stashed in the corner. Shoes that were out of fashion lined the floor. Long-sleeved shirts and matching suit jackets hung in hangers, collecting dust. I stepped inside and looked through them. The clothes were in semi-good condition. Nothing worse than what you get at a thrift store. I could wash and they'd be wearable again. Only one of the hangers was bare. The tags were stained with age, but to my surprise, they had the initial CJ on them. Clayton Jefferson. It was the only thing that made sense. But how? Most of these clothes were for much cooler weather. Him coming back to the house wasn't out of question, but when? And for how long? Did his parents know? Did they care? The sizes were all too big for someone as scrawny as Clayton looked. He got to grow up. He wore suits that were tailor-made to fit him perfectly. He got to grow up while his brother stayed dead. We were only similar in that regard. I'd never be able to wear a suit. Not in the way I want to. And if he did have something to do with his brother's death, then at least you wanted me to do it. It wasn't in cold blood. At least I miss you. Touching and breathing in Clayton's clothes gave my head a rush. It was hard not to sway on my feet. The rest is fuzzy. That night, though, the night before, not you was crying again. I was lightheaded. My wrist still ached. I slipped into the guest room anyway. I sat at your bedside. The pioneer didn't like that. It tried to talk to me, or warn me, whichever, but I ignored it. What the hell did it know? At the end of the day, it was a house. It didn't have siblings. It couldn't have. Much less a twin. It may have seen us grow up, but that didn't mean it knew either of us. How could it understand our bond? How could it comprehend that your hurt hurts me too? I didn't read to you like I did to Aiden. Maybe I should have. I figured you were too wired for sports to get much out of Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan. Instead, I laid my head on the bed, and I stayed there the whole rest of the night. It took a long time, longer than I thought, before the real you came back. The real you cried real you tears and fuck this, fuck all of this. This isn't helping. I don't know why I thought these letters would help. I'm just digging up your grave over and over again. I need to go through with Plan B, Ash, and I need to know that you won't hate me when I do. Please, please don't hate me.
With Annalie as my eccentric guide, she gave me a tour of her city. She did not shy away from the questions I asked. I was not used to being in a place with so many people. There was a lot of noise, and sounds I did not like. Annalie made it bearable. Other than fishing, she explained, the city mainly made profit in smithing with the natural materials they possessed. We walked through the city streets, dining on seafood delicacies and stopping by the few shops still open. An older woman who made intricate bracelets by hand, seashells, precious stones, metals, and careful beading held together with string, gave me one free of charge. She told me a young man like me should have something nice on a night like this. I did not understand the sentiment. I tried to refuse, but she initiated in kind. So, I kept it. I wish I still had that bracelet. Night swept the sky when Annalie took me to our last destination, a noisy but apparently well-regarded establishment, what you warm-bloods cruelly call a bar. My crewmates had goaded me and the other young boys into trying their homemade liquor. Acrid. Awful. Though it did not put me off the drink completely. The idea of trying real, well-prepared alcohol piqued my interest. But Annalie did not bring me there to drink. She brought me there to witness something incredible. A performance, my very first. A small stage was occupied with a variety of people. Singers, dancers, puppeteers. A curious but strange practice indeed. Storytellers and actors, all of which wove tales from places I had never heard of, but now dreamed of visiting. Their words hypnotized me, and all throughout, Annalie sat beside me, holding my hand. A silent, repressed part of me had wanted a sort of girlish companionship, one that would see all my peculiarities as they were, tolerable yet admirable facets that yearned to be loved like the rest of me. If my brother refused, then my newfound friend and I would run off to sail the unknown seas together. And perhaps our bond would flow and bend like the ocean's untamed waves, and, away from prying eyes, become something more. A child's dream I long resigned from. But that was before Annalie. Oh, sweet Annalie. My Annalie. My heart. My song. My love. My life.
This blasted heart betrays me yet again. Damn it all.
She did not spare me the sorrows of her life. She lived alone, which surprised me. The women in my town had no such privilege. She was an only child named after her late mother, close with her father, and she worked as a teacher's aide under a family friend. But she was bored. She wanted more. "Don't mistake me, sailor boy," she said. "I love it here. But I know there's more to life than this. I want to make something of myself that is mine and mine alone." That I could understand, to some degree. I had been at sea as a result of following my brother, but by then he rarely crossed my mind. It was not that I loved him less, or that his company went unnoticed. I had instead gained something I could not have gained on land. Independence. The blue serpent was mine, just as it was his. I told her of my own life, as dull as it was. The most intriguing thing about me was my life at sea, and that seemed to keep her enraptured. The look in her eyes as I told story after story was of a feeling I knew well. Longing. "I see," she said when I was done. "So, life at sea is as exhilarating as it sounds." I nodded. Yes, it was. I could not imagine doing anything else. "Then would you show me?" she asked. "Take me to your ship. I wish to walk along its deck." Though I had no authorization to do so, I fulfilled her request. The captain and his inner circle were nowhere to be seen, and the handfuls of men that had dragged their drunk bodies back to the ship were below deck and asleep. There was only us, the moon, and the sea. I watched Annalie take in the scenery. She glided her hands along the starboard taffrail, and she looked ready to climb up and walk along it. And she did. I stood nearby as she balanced along it, though she hardly needed me. "I would love to paint something as amazing as this one day," she said. The thought lingered in the silence, and I can imagine with ease her paintings covering the blue serpent. I could forget that I would never see Annalie again when morning came, that I would be alone on a boat surrounded by men once more. I could forget, and instead envision us in the crow's nest above it, all the while she marveled at the sights and I marveled at her. I forced the thoughts into submission. What a lovesick fool I was. Yet another childish dream. Annalie stepped down and took my hands in hers, using them to twirl herself around. When she saw my confusion, she said with a laugh, "You are the most wretched sailor boy I have ever met. I want to see how good your sea legs are, unless you are too much of a man to dance." I would have laughed if I were not so embarrassed. If only she knew I was less of a man than she thought. She had her eyebrow raised in challenge, and it was one that I was willing to take. And so, we danced. The dancers had a practiced routine while they were on stage. They knew what they were doing. But even with my lack of skill, I made Annalie giggle, her dress whirling to and fro. She looked beautiful in motion. Our dance did not last long. It ended in a gentle sway, and I was utterly content. "I am not supposed to be here," she said after a moment's silence. I frowned at her, thinking perhaps she meant she would get in trouble with her father. That was not the case. "Perhaps you don't know," she said. "But it is said that women and girls are bad luck on ships. Their presence would only distract the hard-working men from their work." I recognized her tone. Sarcasm. It did not occur to me that I or any woman could be a source of ill luck. Then again, I was still young. The brutal truths of the world had yet to come. Still, no disaster, natural or otherwise, had befallen the crew or the ship while I had been on board. I supposed that was another good reason to continue the charade, and in any case, Annalie was far from bad luck to me. "It is just a superstition," she said, "an old one. Although, for what it's worth..." Annalie's golden eyes searched the grey, endless pits of mine. We both stood still, holding the other close. I had never been that close to anyone before. I dared not breathe. "If you have been on this ship for as long as you say," she said, "then you have nothing to worry about." Her words startled me. She knew. Here she went again, leaving me speechless. And I continued to say nothing when I walked Annalie off the ship and back to her home. I had my reasons for pretending. Of course I did. But I said nothing. I could not begin to articulate any of them. This did not seem to bother Annalie, though. We got to her door, and she told me her father did not live far, but there was nothing that would disturb her. "Disturb us," she said, her gaze intense. Ah, I understood. She kissed me, and I found that the ocean and Annalie were not at all dissimilar. Two untamed beings with tides I would gladly drown in 1,000 times over. In the early hours of dawn, after I had gotten my bearings from waking up in a bed that was not my own, Annalie took interest in my chest bindings. They were not comfortable to wear, but they got the job done. When she saw I was awake, she smiled and said, "Good morning." Her hair, once tightly done up, had fallen to her shoulders, her curls fuzzy from sleep. Oh, the ships I would sink to hear her voice again. "I have been thinking," she said, and came to sit with me. Your secret is safe with me. I smiled. I never doubted she would tell a soul, not after our escapade. Annalie handed back my bindings. But I want to do what you did. What you are doing. Then, with a grin, she said, I want to come with you. And so went her transformation. Shaved curls, her father's well-fitting clothes, bindings that suited her chest. I smudged some dirt on her cheek, which she did not like. But we had to sell the story we cobbled together. Poor boy looking for work and a place to earn his keep. I was diligent enough to successfully convince the captain to let a newcomer on, and quick enough to catch him before the ship set sail at noon. Thus, the Blue Serpent gained a new, albeit frequently seasick, cabin boy, Lee, a boy who had no calluses on his hands, but was eager to do the work to get them there. Some of the men groaned at having to split food even more between them, another mouth to feed. My brother kept an eye on Lee as well as me, but not closely as he did once before. He had his own duties after all. I caught the red-headed devils along with a few others narrowing their eyes at Lee in suspicion. I should not have, but I dismissed it. They did not matter. Annalie and I were together, working on the ship above deck and sharing kisses below. Kel and Lee. Lee and Kel. A lie neither of us minded telling. Some nights, while the crew was still getting accustomed to her presence, Lee put on impromptu performances after dinner for the men still working above deck. My brother had no interest in such things, but it kept the rest of the crew lively. Even the captain seemed to enjoy it. Although, every night without fail, I would spot the red-headed devils in the back of the crowd of men. They would whisper among themselves. Sometimes others would join, but they were few and far between. I did not catch their words, but I did not like how they watched Lee while they whispered. I glared at them when they caught me looking, and I did not stop until they retreated below deck. Cowards, the both of them. The Blue Serpent hardly took any damage in the first year of its voyage, and as much as I loathe to admit it now, the men on that ship were good at keeping it afloat against troubled waters. The crew worked well together. Birthdays, funerals, even marriages were held and officiated on board. We were more than comrades. We were, dare I say, warm blood. We were family. We forged it all on our own, and though I thought of the family that nursed me often, I had finally made something that could fit into the palm of my hand. Friends, a career, a lover, all of which were mine, and mine alone. I was no longer the girl who hid in the crow's nest, but a womanish thing who stood upon it with a spyglass in hand. You see, warm blood, I was the first to spot the storm. Oh, how it all came crumbling down.
The end is close. You and I both know what happens next. Miss Ortega told me once that trauma affects memory, leaving holes in the brain while the body still remembers. It made sense. I mean, how could it not? I don't want to remember this as well as I do. I went into the closet again and saw something I didn't notice the first time. My headache from the day before didn't go away with sleep, or time, or Advil, but it had become dull, manageable. and I liked going in there too much to stop. It both pained and calmed me all at once. Tangible past, intangible future. Above the hangers haunted a bundle of clothes pushed in the far back of the top shelf. A shirt and a pair of shorts. I reached for them. Stupid decision. The smell of mold colonized the space, and the hallway light illuminated splattered stains all over the front of the shirt. Blood. It was dry, but blood all the same. The pain in my head sharpened and it hit me so hard that I saw stars behind my eyelids. I could barely open them. Mom found me and put me to bed. Or maybe it was Dad who... No. Was it Jude? No, I don't think it was. I don't know. I remember going back to your room, the guest room, to take a nap. I don't know where Jude was. It's all blending together. I had another dream. I was in a foggy bathroom. I was not myself, but I knew who I was this time. I was Clayton. I get it now. I've always been Clayton. Through the blurry, fogged-up mirror, I could see the impressions of a face. Our face. No, his. He wore clean clothes. He felt cleaner, too, but only on the outside. Clayton cleaned his glasses, put them on, and wiped the mirror with his hand. Through his eyes, I stared at his reflection. He looked tired and younger than I expected. His glasses were more cracked than I thought they'd be, but he was no different from the boy in the attic photograph. His eyes were more sunken here, though. We stared at each other, one body, two minds. Then he frowned, gritting his teeth. His own face angered him. He seethed, letting loose an anger Abel wrote about once before. Clayton looked at his hands. They were as clean as the rest of him, but we both knew that wasn't true. He stared at them for a long, long time. His hands. Our hands. They would never be clean again. He balled his fist, reared back, and... It was night when I woke up to a noise. You weren't in bed, and the door to the guest room had a hole where the doorknob should have been. My heart dropped to my feet and shattered like glass, like a fist to a mirror. You were gone.
Episode 12 features Ricky Clairvoyant as narrator, Pollux as young Cain, Alyssa Roldan as young Judith, and Justine Leah Hince as the Siren. Deadwood is a podcast written and created by Saniyah Hill and co-produced by Makenna Fulgham. This episode was co-written and edited by Daniela Vega Labrador, J.E Berkowsky, and Meaghan McDonald. The audio editing was done by Alyssa Roldan. The music is by Julius H., and the lovely cover art is by Scinna. You can find Deadwood on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Bluesky, or you can send a message to our email at deadwoodpod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. The beginning starts at the end.